Hello everyone, this is my first editor tutorial thing, and this time I will be showing you how to make a simple custom attack for your levels. First thing you need is event triggers, and what event trigger does is it activates a group depending on what the player does. In the event link tab, the group ID you use will activate when the event happens. And the extra ID 2 is used for player 1 in this case because it's a 1. You can use 0, which activates when either of the player does what the event wants. And extra ID 1 specifies what player 1 does, and extra ID 2 specifies what the player 2 does. And in this case, we want the player 1 to activate the group 4 every time you push left. And in the second event link, we want the same thing to happen from player 1, but this time to group 5, and this time the event happens when we push right. So this is pretty much your player 1 movement from left to right. And why we want these events is because we don't want you to be able to swing to, behind you at the same time when you swing in front of you. And this does that in a way where when you're facing right, the attack is facing right, and when you're facing left, the attack is facing left. And in this third event link, we are going to use the next free group, which is this time group 6. And now we use extra ID 2, because we want to use the player to jump as the indication for the player to attack. And this time we use with the extra ID 2 the jump push, so it activates every time you push jump. If you use for example, the jump release, then it would only attack after you let the jump button go, after you pushed it down. So you usually want to use push for many things in the event triggers. And after that is done, we want to add 3 spawn triggers in front of each of the event triggers. And these spawn triggers will be activated every time the event happens. And the reason why I'm using spawn triggers instead of just, putting it straight onto what the event wants, if, for example, toggle triggers or stuff like that, is because if I want to toggle off specific things for or use the event for something else, I can do it way easier if I can just toggle the spawn trigger off and then toggle other spawn trigger on to use the same event for something else. And what you want to do is add group to each of the spawn triggers, and this group is the group that you used in the event trigger. And remember to have all the spawn triggers as spawn activated and multi-activate. If you don't have the multi-activate tab on, in that case the event only works once. So you definitely pretty much always want to have multi-activate on almost everything. What you want next is an anchor point from where the attack comes. And because you really can't easily put something on follow on the player, so I usually just have one centered anchor object, which I put to follow the player center using the advanced follow trigger. And after you have that anchor point, you can easily lock other objects onto that anchor point with follow trigger. And that's what I've been using to make all kinds of things to follow the player in the exact positions I want them to. In this case, I gave the anchor object the group of 10, and after that, in the advanced follow trigger, I use the target group ID as 10. So it takes the anchor object, and I put the follow group ID as player 1. So that tells the game to anchor the target object to my player. And you don't need to use spawn triggers or anything on this. If you just have it in the back of the level, it will activate automatically when you start playing the game. And next, you want hitboxes for your the attack. Because if you want a custom attack, you probably want to hit something. And for this, you need to use collision boxes or collision blocks. And I usually like to have the block ID 1 saved for custom attack, so it makes things much easier when you're just checking if it collides, because you always remember it's the block ID 1 you need to check the collision with. And I don't like to use dynamic block on the attack, because I usually put dynamic block on everything else and leave dynamic block out of the attack. Because when you check collisions, one of the blocks that collide need to be a dynamic block for the collision to check out. Also, the reason why I have two collision blocks is because one is going to be used for when the player is facing left, and one is going to use when the player is facing right. And when you're going to press the attack button, when you're facing right, the attack will go to the right side, and you won't be hitting anything behind you. And when you are facing left, you'll be hitting left, and you won't be hitting anything that's on the right side of you. And next, we want these collision boxes to follow the player on these positions. And that's why we are going to use the anchor object to help with this. We are going to use follow trigger on as high move time as possible. It's way easier if you have mega hack or something that lets you go past the number limits, so you can put like extra 9s in there. But currently, with just the default number limits, you can put 9,999 seconds move time, which is over on like 3 hours or something like that. And you're going to use the group target ID of 11, and that's 11 is the ID we gave to the collision boxes. And the follow group ID 10 is the anchor. So basically this tells the collision boxes to follow the anchor object. And this keeps their position where they are in the editor. So because if we were to use advanced follow for this, it would only just move the boxes in the middle of the anchor point, which is not what we want, because that would pretty much ruin the thing. Also, for the collision boxes, you want to add one group ID to each, one for the left side and one for the right side. This way you can toggle the other side off while the other is on. And this toggling is easily done with the event left and event right triggers, because you can just use the toggle for the left side, which instantly toggles the left side on and the right side off. And for the event right toggle, you can instantly put the event trigger to toggle the right side on and the left side off. So basically, whichever direction you're facing, that's the direction you're going to attack. And the reason why I'm putting a toggle trigger for the group 12 here, which automatically toggles the left side off when I'm entering a level, is because on base value, the player is like looking to the right side of the level when the level starts. So you want the left side to be toggled off, so when you spawn into the level, you cannot attack because if you attack without moving when the level starts, you'd be hitting to your back and to your front. So this way you won't be hitting behind you, you'll be just attacking in front of you, and if you move right, it stays the same. Once you move left, it can toggle the left side on again with no problems. And now for this, you probably want to also have a visible attack while playing, because if you go into the actual level now, you could not see the hitboxes, you'd only see nothing, except you'd see the anchor point but nothing else. So now I'm going to add animated object that you'll be animated to have the attack each time happen when you press the attack button. And I'm going to first put it as single frame of 3, and this helps me when warping the object to shape, because I want the object to be similar to the size of which the attack hitbox will be, so you know how far you can hit or how far the attack goes. And after you're done with that, you can take the single frame off, put it back to 0, and use animate on trigger. if you don't have that set, it will pretty much all the time loop the animation, and you don't want that. You want it to animate on trigger, so you can use the attack animation only when you attack. Next, we are going to add a toggle trigger for the group 11, because we don't want the attack hitboxes to be on unless we're actually attacking. So we'll toggle them off at the start of the level, and after that, each time the attack event happens, we'll toggle the group 11 on again. And we also want to animate the group 11, because both of the attacks are on group 11, or the animated objects, so both of them will animate from this animate 11 trigger, but the only one of them will be visible depending on which side you're looking at. If you're looking to the right one will be visible. If you're looking to the left one will be visible. You also probably want some kind of sound for your attack, so we'll be using a random trigger to not have the same boring sound every time. We'll be adding a random trigger, and we'll be using two SFX triggers. One will be a swoosh A01, and the other will be swoosh A02. And we will add the next three groups to these two triggers, and then we will put the random trigger for these two groups. And this way, each time the attack is played, it will take one of the sounds from the random trigger 50% of the time the other, and 50% of the time the other. Make sure you have the toggle, animate, and random trigger all in the group 9, and have them spawn activate and multi-activate, because that way you can always activate them with the attack button, which is the player 2 jump in this case. We also want to have another spawn trigger that activates from the attack spawn trigger. And what this spawn trigger does is it turns off the attack, like the hitboxes. And what this does, I'll put it on a 0.2 delay. So this way the hitbox of your attack will linger for 0.2 seconds. And during that frame, the attack hitbox can collide with whatever you want to attack. And after that delay, it will be turned off. And as the last thing, we want to have a lockout for the attack. What lockout means is that you can't just keep spamming your player to jump and have it like permanently have the attack hitbox on. What this does is it locks out the attack for 0.35 seconds. So for the duration of 0.35 seconds, you cannot attack again. And this is easily done. This is why we use like specific spawn triggers to put everything into motion. Because right now we can use this spawn trigger with toggles group 9 or activates group 9. We can just add another group to it, and we can use the toggle trigger this time with the group 18. We can toggle it off, and after that another spawn delay comes in, which is the 0.35 seconds, and that toggles the spawn 9 trigger back on. And this way you have the trigger off for 0.35 seconds each time you attack. A quick note, you probably want to hide the anchor point. Just go in, just click the anchor object and click edit group, extra, and hide. This way it's not visible when you're playing the level. And just like that, you made a working custom attack, as you can see, and you can use this in your levels or anything you want. Just have fun building, I guess. And if you have any ideas for any other tutorials you want to see, you can leave them in the comments. I have like a couple more ideas in mind, but I can always take recommendations too. Thanks for watching.